DJ PK, it's 97.5 The Zone. We are joined by Tim LaComb, jazz analyst for SEG Media. Tim, good morning.
Good morning. Good to be with you.
Little Sinatra this morning in honor of the late Frank Layden. You worked in the basketball community. You ever rub elbows with Frank Layden? End up with any stories?
Yeah, I met him, several times in different places. He and Coach Majerus were very close, so he was around a lot at Utah. But then, just ran into him at different events. And, I just got to concur with something I saw today. I really do believe his mission in life was to try to make people smile. An authentic guy, a guy that, you saw what he was, and he was just an awesome ambassador for basketball in the state. I remember when, I was young enough to remember when the Jazz came to Utah. I was just a young kid, and he was bigger than life, and I think did a really good job at assimilating NBA basketball here in the state and kind of being the face of it. I think the thing I'll always remember is the duel with Pat Riley when he pulled his comb out.
Yeah.
At midcourt and started slicking his hair back.
Got a rise out of Riley.
Just a wonderful, wonderful guy. Will be missed. And, I love the opportunity I had to get to talk to him a few times.
I think we all did, and that's well said. I think all of us who've had any form of interaction with him, he was the broadcaster for Ute games for a while when I was the beat writer, so I got to spend some time with him there and vacation with him in Mexico. So, yeah, played golf with him. My wife played golf with him. I told the story earlier this morning. Steve Clocky got run over by a truck a year ago, just about, 13 months ago, and so unfortunate there, and he lost his life, and they had a celebration of life ceremony there at the cemetery, and the line was out the door 3 hours after it was supposed to be over. But Frank came in, and he was in a wheelchair, and he called me. He had golf with my wife, and he called me over, and I bent down so I could hear him, and he says, "Is your wife still beating you in golf?" And I said, "Yes, she is." So he remembered the times that we had played golf together, and that's just the way he was, man. Incredible memory, incredible way to connect with people that all of us can use as an example in ways to live our lives. He was an example in that way, and so his just reward certainly is coming his way. As far as the basketball, I didn't see the third game, but I watched the first two. I was down in Dallas watching the second game for the Big 12 media, and I like what I saw at Ace, but I didn't really see anything that surprised me. I mean, I think this kid has a chance to be a really good player, and I'm going to stick with that. I don't see anything to make me think otherwise.
I think the thing that really stands out to me, and I get a kick out of it because, Jazz Twitter's a thing, and during the first quarter of the game against Oklahoma City when they were just getting drilled, everybody was, starting to make rash statements after about 6 quarters of basketball with the guys that met each other the Wednesday previous. So, I mean, there's a lot that goes into this thing, and my observations were simply that, Ace showed that he can get 20 a game without even having a play run for him. And I really think that was kind of the essence of what Salt Lake Summer League was about. You look at the boxes, and I think Ace, the 2 games he played, he had 7 offensive rebounds. I mean, he's an absolute – that's what stood out to me was he's a problem on the offensive glass because of his size, and he has a real good knack to go get that ball. That led to baskets. And I remember, I think I've told this story, but I'll tell it again because it's a good one. Al McGuire, Majerus told me a story that Al would tell recruits, you want to make $1 million, come play for us at Marquette. And they'd get there and like, okay, how do I make my $1 million? And Al McGuire said every time the ball's shot, go get the rebound. And, if you keep doing that over a 4-year period, you're going to make millions of dollars. And so I think that's what stood out to me. It was exciting. He's a tough shot maker, but his knack to go get the ball and the pressure that puts on the other team. It's like running the floor. If you're constantly running the floor, the other team doesn't go, as hard at the glass because they've got to get back. They've got to account for your pace of play. Similar thing on the glass. I mean, if you've got guys that just pound the boards, and Walker Kessler is a great offensive rebounder, led the NBA last year in contested rebounds, but you get guys that are pounding the glass every time, that can really slow down another team's break and other things. So that was just a little minute detail I saw. And then I loved, Clayton's going to assimilate over time, but what he did do in summer league is what he did in college. He made big shots at timely moments. And when a guy can do that, that's a really great skill.
If a guy's been in the league a couple of years and shot 42% for three, shouldn't he go into summer league, score 37 points? And at that point, is there any point in Bryce sense about playing anymore? You looking for something else out of him?
No, I think that was just a really good opportunity. Again, there's a lot of things that are going on behind the scenes that people ask, why are they doing that? But, sometimes there's you want to have some veterans with the young guys to set the tone. You don't want to have – you also may do that to get the veterans team a bit more confidence. There's lots of different reasons to do it. But, yeah, he did exactly what I expected him to do. His shot's looking really good. His pace of play, the shot selection, it's almost as though they said, Bryce, just go lead this team. Go find a way to do whatever you got to do to lead this team. And he was great. I thought Collier played good in stretches. Too many turnovers, but again, I almost talk about familiarity, spacing is a great. Majerus, again, we once said spacing is offense. Offense is spacing. If you don't have great spacing, turnovers are going to be more readily available. And I think, sometimes Collier tried to push it in spots that maybe weren't there. But overall, I think everybody showed well. And, Cody Williams showed he's put on a little bit of weight. He's a little bit more ready for the NBA. So lots of different things to monitor.
From my perspective, getting rid of Collins, Sexton, and Clarkson and Collins, they're all fine players, but I'd rather not have them around to go through the dog and pony show that we went through last year. And I recognize that the team may struggle and may not win even as many games as they did last year, or maybe surprise and win 10 more. That. But the fact of the matter is, the reasons that I just stated, I don't know if they're going to win 17. I don't know if they're going to win 27. And I don't know who's going to emerge, is just the number one reason why I want to watch. It's kind of a twisted way. I'm not necessarily watching for winning, but I'm just watching to see how it all plays out. Whereas last year, I was like, who's going to be available, what excuses they're going to come up with, and blah, blah, blah. Well, get rid of all that stuff and then put the ball up there and throw it up for a center jump, and let's see what we got. And to me, even though that doesn't necessarily mean to lead to a lot of wins, it gives me a form of excitement that I want to see how it plays out.
Yeah, I tend to agree with that. I think, having ingested nearly all 82 last year, I think I missed 2 games. But I agree. I think, on a nightly basis, those veterans were there, and if they were available, they needed to play some. And it made it really difficult last year to try to figure out, the end game. I do see a lot of people saying, they held on to guys too long, and that, I don't think that was the case at all. I think these guys, those 3 guys particularly, were part of conversations over the last 3 years, and I think they finally just decided, to take what was out there. I'd hope that John had maybe, with his year last year, played himself into being maybe worth a little bit more. And, at the end of the day, there's a lot of opinions on guys that have been in this league and those sometimes are hard to break. But the bottom line is we're going to be able to see these young guys in all situations now. There isn't going to be necessarily that buffer. Those guys are going to have to go out and figure it out. It's going to require some solid play from a couple of dudes that maybe have been up and down, but that's what Coach Hardy talked about last year. It's the essence of the NBA is to be game ready every night that you've got one, and go out there and compete with everything you got. And it's a consistency thing. It's a mindset thing. That's going to be part of what these guys learn. But I too am excited because I want to see, at the end of the day, I want to see what they have. I want to see what they have game 1 and then game 40 and then game 80, watch it through the process. If you do that, you can see a guy like Walker Kessler 2 years ago who was, he was in a very bad spot. And then last year he worked himself out of it by just leaning into what he does great. So to me, that's the essence of this whole process is, it's not going to be over this year. We know that. And this team is going to take their lumps, but it's going to be a little bit different. And I would expect that they'll win more than the number because when Will Hardy's got some consistency with lineups and things like that, he's been pretty darn good. So I'm excited to see what these young guys can do for sure.
It's crazy how the league swings back and forth for a long time. If you had a veteran player, you could probably get draft picks or maybe some young talent. But the teams that need veteran players right now don't have any cap room. So veteran players who make money, they just don't look like they're worth very much right now.
Yeah, and it seems to be the same suitors all the time, the guys that have burned through all their quid. The Clippers, I just chuckle. I saw that Beal may be going to the Clippers, and I'm just like, these are almost like outposts for bad contracts, some of these places. But, yeah, you make a great point. I mean, with the cap and with the repeater tax and everything else, obviously financial piece of this is really important. So some teams, choose, like Indiana chooses not even to swim in those ponds. But it's definitely cyclical, and there are teams out there who will pay some of these older guys. But the bottom line is what the Jazz got back was pretty much what was, I think, being offered through the years, as they went through this process with these guys.
I do think if the Jazz win the Summer League that they'll make a strong push for the playoff.
You do?
No.
Okay. I just needed to make sure I heard that right. You were trying to make sure I was listening, weren't you?
Yeah, solid follow-up by you, though. Just get to, you do? This gets right to the heart of the matter. You broke them down pretty quick.
Playoffs, no, but I think, honestly, I do believe that they'll overexceed the expectations because I think two things. I think they've got talented guys. The last couple of years, drafts have been good. And with some tough luck with Hendricks, last year we didn't get to see a lot of him. But we're talking about a guy like Sensabaugh. We're talking about, Collier, who can be a solid guy in this league. And much like Sexton, if you can just kind of keep continuing to tailor his game and cut out things that don't work, which he can do over time. But, yeah, they've got a ton of talent, but I believe in this coaching staff. I really do. I think Will's terrific, and I think his guys develop players well. So if the bar is set at 18, I'd be willing to say they're going to win 5 to 10 more than that.
Yeah, okay. I just want to see them all swim.
Some nights they're just going to play harder than other teams. You know what I mean? That was one of the tough things last year was when you didn't know if you were in or you're out.
Right.
It's hard every night. But they can be one of those teams that just next year I expect that's what we'll ask of these guys, and I think that they'll outplay some teams and maybe win a few more games than they would have.
I like the fact that they're all basically of the same generation, same NBA experiences. Everybody's different from where they come. It doesn't matter what you look like. We're all different one from another. But I like the fact that it's like, all right, guys, here we are. It's our group. Zippo believes in us. Vegas has got us the worst team in the league. What are we going to do about it, man? And you got all these guys, 18 or 19 to 23, 24. They all can relate relatively well to each other because they've only been a year or two. I mean, Kessler's going to fourth year, but the other guys have all just barely. They all should still be in college if it was the old days where they played 4. They all, literally all of them except Kessler, would still be in college, and Clayton is the other one too, obviously. But I think that can bind them and can have some unique experiences together that can help them over the long term.
Yeah, you're looking for any advantage, and I do think that having a very kind of like-aged locker room where nobody's giving you any credit, that's a great place to start, that chip on your shoulder. And, yeah, I mean, they're going to take their lumps this year. There's no question about it. But I'm excited because it was plays like the other night where, you cannot teach this. There's a ball shot. Ace comes flying in on the offensive glass, catches it basically at the apex. He comes down and gathers himself, takes one dribble, and off one leg, a little fader. And, you can throw a name in there. I mean, it was Durant-esque, I guess. But that is the one thing that over the entire summer league that made me salivate, because those are just certain things you can't teach. The timing, the length, the touch, the feel. I think they've got an all-star in Ace. I think this kid's going to be an all-star, and I think his journey is going to be really fun to watch. It's already off with a bang because, pundits got in and tried to mess with it. But the bottom line is the dude's here, seems happy to be here, and like you said, a locker room that's going to rely on him, but also support him, and then a great coaching staff with development. I'm excited to see his trajectory change, from October to, say, February, and then obviously into the summer, and just kind of see what he does over that time. But I dare say, in watching Summer League, I think he might be the most talented prospect the Jazz have ever drafted.
Ooh.
Well, they've drafted some Hall of Famers, so strong words right there, Tim.
Yeah. Well, no, I'm not saying end result. I'm talking just here's the guy that you get to mold. I think he's the most talented guy, in all the areas: length, reach, size, touch, skill. I think he's the best. Like, here I am, make me what you're going to make me. I think he's the best prospect standing there for that to happen.
Well, in the first quarter of his first Summer League game, he beat his guy off the dribble, to your point, missed the shot, hit the floor, went and got the rebound, missed that shot, hit the floor, and went back up again and tipped it in. That's a lot of athletic ability. You spent a lot of time trying to find somebody who could hit the floor and go back up like that one time, and he did it twice, right out of the gate.
Yeah, and so it's little plays like that. His, that dunk he had with just a little extra on it, where it seemed like he hung for another hour. The alley-oop was great. But, I saw they're not even running plays for Ace. Well, guess what? That's what Summer League's about. Maybe the challenge is go find 20 without us running a play for you. And then if we run a play for you, every other time, maybe you can get 40 sometime. But those are the things going on behind the scenes that people don't understand. But after watching him for a couple games, believe me, he's got my attention. I think the dude – I came into the draft saying that I think if they were to get able to get him, I think he was the desire at 5.
Yeah.
But if they were able to get him, that he would, I saw him turn into an all-star, and I think that's what's going to happen here.
All right.
Tim, we appreciate it. Thanks a lot.
All right, guys. Thank you. Have a great day.
Tim LaComb, Jazz analyst for SEG Media, join us right here on The Zone. DJ and PK, when we come back, everything you missed in this show next, stay with us.